अग्नीरे पुरोहितं यज्ञस्य देवमृत्विजम् होतारं रत्नधातमम्.
Another hiatus left by the received theories is the gulf that divides the material worship of external nature powers in the Veda from the developed religion of the Greeks, and from the psychological and spiritual ideas we find attached to the functions of the gods in the Upanishads and Puranas. ବେଦରେ ବର୍ଣ୍ଣିତ ଯେଉଁ ସବୁ ଷ୍ଟୋରିଜ ଆଉ ଯେଉଁ ସବୁ ଉପାଖ୍ୟାନ ଗୁଡ଼ିକ ବା ଯେଉଁ ସବୁ ସିମ୍ବଲିଜମ୍ସ ଗୁଡ଼ିକକୁ ସେଟ୍ ଆସାଇଡ୍ କରିବାର ଗୋଟେ ବଡ଼ ରିଜନ୍ ଏଇଟା ବି କାହିଁକିନା we don't find it as convincing and as developed kind of writing that we find in the Greek mythology, or at least in the Upanishads and Puranas, where every god has some kind of particular power or a role to play in a series of story, or a kind of context, or a kind of entire Puranic aspect that is built around these kind of gods. But we have here the worship of external nature powers. So the worshipping of external nature powers relating to some kind of external material gains sometimes brings a question mark, a doubt in the minds of the readers of the Vedas that what holistic significance could they be bearing in themselves, if at all it's an hidden and a veiled one. We may accept for the present the theory that the earliest fully intelligent form of human religion is necessarily, since man on earth begins from the external and proceeds to the internal, so this human religion is necessarily a worship of outward nature powers invested with the consciousness and the personality that he finds in his own being. So this was the relation that was established in the Vedas. Whereas in the storyline of the Upanishads and the Puranas, we find it to be totally external. But here, as we worship the external powers of the nature, there is a certain element of internalization also that creates an idea of a correlation between these external powers of nature and that what the man could find itself in his own being. Now, let us take some of the examples of the gods that the Veda is probably describing, and Sri Aurobindo has rightly put it out in terms of many gods and many interpretations that was created in the light of the Vedas, and some of them do have a greater correlation with the Greek mythology also. Agni in the Veda is avowedly fire. Surya is the sun. Parjanya, the rain cloud, Usha, the dawn, and if the material origin or function of some other gods is less trenchantly clear, it is easy to render the obscure precise by philological inferences or ingenious speculation. This is how the Vedas interpreted or tried to formulate the idea of gods through utmost symbolism, and with the kind of hidden conjecture that they were trying to draw out over there. But when we come to the worship of the Greeks, not much later in date than the Veda, according to modern ideas of chronology, though we have a certain kind of belief that uh, the Vedas are the most Sanatan and Puratan in the timeline of human civilization. But as the modern ideas of chronology say that um, the most significant other writings of that era, whereof the Greek mythology is one. Uh, so Sri Aurobindo also puts it as, but when we come to the worship of the Greeks, not much later in date than the Veda, according to modern ideas of chronology, we find a significant change. The material attributes of the gods are effaced, or have become subordinate to psychological conceptions. The impetuous god of fire has been converted into a lame god of labor. That's in the Greek mythology, which is Apollo. The sun presides over poetical and prophetic inspiration. Athene, who may plausibly be identified as in origin a dawn goddess, same as we find as Usha, has lost all memory of her material functions and is the wise, strong, and pure goddess of knowledge. And there are other deities also, gods of war, love, beauty, whose material functions have disappeared if they ever existed. That means they also try to symbolize or try to have a correlation between the kind of living natural powers and the gods in form of these various elements, which could be war, love, beauty, and as we saw in terms of inspiration, in terms of knowledge. So that is how the attributes were symbolized or the attributes were correlated with the gods in both the Vedas and the Greek mythology. It is not enough to say that this change was inevitable with the progress of human civilization. The process also of the change demands inquiry and elucidation. We see the same revolution effected in the Puranas, partly by the substitution of other divine names and figures. You see, one Purana has a completely different storyline of the creation than the other Purana. How? But also in part by the same obscure process that we observe in the evolution of Greek mythology. The river Saraswati has become the muse and goddess of learning. Vishnu and Rudra of the Vedas are now the supreme godhead, members of a divine triad, a Trishakti, and expressive separately of conservative and destructive process in the cosmos. That is how the external power of construction and destruction, which could have merely linked with some kind of uh, interpretation or some kind of symbolism in the Vedas, has descended down to personification of a god, Vishnu or Rudra in the Puranas, and that is how it becomes appealing to our minds. In the Isha Upanishad, we find an appeal to Surya as a god of revelatory knowledge, by whose action we can arrive at the highest truth. So when we see the Upanishads, they also bring out a separate correlation than the Puranas. That means Vedas, being the most mystical ones, have been in some manner demystified in the Upanishads, but has been personified in terms of the writings in the Puranas. That is how we find a dilution, if I say so, in terms of the interpretations given in the Vedas to down the line to the Puranas. This too is his function in the sacred Vedic formula of the Gayatri, which was for thousands of years repeated by every Brahmin in his daily meditation. And we may note that this formula is a verse from the Rig Veda, from a hymn of the Rishi Vishwamitra. In the same Upanishad, Agni is invoked for purely moral functions as the purifier from sin, the leader of the soul by the good path to the divine bliss. And he seems to be identified with the power of the will and responsible for human actions. See, a completely different interpretation of what we consider to be the Agni god, the god of Agni, the god of fire, or the god of or the god's sun. Surya was never interpreted as a revelatory knowledge, and Agni was never invoked as someone who purifies us from sin. In other Upanishads, the gods are clearly the symbols of sense functions in man. Soma, the plant which yielded the mystic wine for the Vedic sacrifice, has become not only the god of the moon, the Soma, which was a mystic wine in the Vedas, has turned out to be the Soma that we know as the god of the moon, but manifests himself as mind in the human being. Again, that Soma is somewhere referred in some of the Upanishads as mind in the human being. These evolutions suppose some period posterior to the early material worship or superior pantheistic animism attributed to the Vedas. Because these kind of animative evolution of the gods have taken place in the Upanishads and Puranas, the Vedas seems to be a completely barbarous and a completely misleading interpretations. But that isn't true, and that is why is the significance of getting through the secret of the Veda. So we read it again. This evolution supports some period posterior to the early material worship or superior pantheistic animism attributed to the Vedas and prior to the developed Puranic mythology in which the gods became invested with deeper psychological functions, a period which may well have been the age of the mysteries. So when knowledge was evoluting, or if we say so that the transformative generation of the knowledge was quite mystiful in nature, was quite full of mysteries, and thus the creation of the Vedas, not mere writings, but as we know, many of them have been created in terms of the Shruti and the Smruti. As things stand, a gap is left or else has been created by our exclusive preoccupation with the naturalistic element in the religion of the Vedic rishis. So, as we see that there is now a big gap of understanding between what has been created as a preoccupation with the naturalistic element in the religion of the Vedic rishis in relation to the Vedas. I suggest that the Gulf is of our own creation. Sri Aurobindo says that the Gulf is of our own creation. If so, there is a gulf of understanding or interpreting the gods in their truer, deeper psychological meanings, but we have turned them into mere stories and various kind of Puranas and Upanishads with a meaning and attribute that has been formed out of a particular sage or a seer and does not really exist in the ancient sacred writings. The hypothesis I propose is that the Rig Veda is itself the one considerable document that remains to us from the early period of human thought, of which the historic Eleusinian and Orphic mysteries were the failing remnants. When the spiritual and psychological knowledge of the race was concealed for reasons now difficult to determine. In a veil of concrete and material figures and symbols, which protected the sense from the profane and revealed it to the initiated. Now, this has been the journey of the knowledge of the Vedas, that uh, the Rig Veda being the primitive of the other four, the other three of the four Vedas as Rig, Yajur, Atharva, and Sama. We have seen that in terms of if we connect it to the Eleusinian and Orphic mysteries that were for the Greek mythology or the other civilized documented literature on religion has been created, we find that there is lot of veiling and there is lot of symbolism in terms of the Vedas other than these scriptures that Sri Aurobindo is referring to, and these are protected from the senses as we perceive it now. For me, the sense of Agni or the sense of Surya or the sense of Vayu and Varuna could not be the same the way that Vedas are trying to put it. Because if at all I am judging these gods, or if at all I am terming these gods in terms of the sensual relationship that these powers of nature has with us, then it's a very limited one. There could be a more profound revelation to the kind of philosophical bearings that they carry in themselves. One of the leading principles of the mystics was the sacredness and secrecy of self knowledge and the true knowledge of the gods. This wisdom was, they thought, unfit perhaps even dangerous to the ordinary human mind, or in any case, liable to perversion and misuse and loss of virtue if revealed to vulgar and unpurified spirits. Now, this is the reason why a lot of symbolism and mysticism was pushed into the language of the Vedas and the archaic text of Sanskrit that was built uh, to have these mysteries carried in themselves, concealing the profound meaning of the Vedas in themselves. Now, this orientation of the Vedas was created just because the ordinary human mind could make it liable to different kind of perversions, and when it is subjected to some kind of vulgar and unpurified spirits, it could be well misused by them, and it might lose its virtue.